All right, man, look. So, I know on the night of the fight, Brian Castano versus Jermell Charlo for Undisputed, I know I said this. For me, it's either a draw or Mel won, because Mel won the championship rounds. That's a thing.
That's a thing.
Now, let me make one thing clear. I do stand by that statement still, okay? I want to make this clear that I do agree that it was a draw. I think it was a draw mathematically. I want to say that again. I think the fight was correctly scored a draw.
I think the fight was correctly scored a draw.
Now, Nelson Vasquez, 117, 111, we all know that that is terrible, that is horrific. And for a fight as important as Undisputed and historic as this fight was, 154 in the 4-belt era, Nelson Vasquez should be reprimanded, maybe suspended for such a horrible call. 117, 111. Let's get that out there. Also, the fact that I think it was correctly, the result was correct, that it was a draw, 6-6. But the statement I made, the comment I made, for me, is either a draw or Mel won, because Mel won the championship rounds. That's a thing. So let me make this clear here. I stand by it, that the fight was either won in the championship rounds. Now, why is that important? Let's talk about championship rounds. It is a real thing, believe it or not. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of championship rounds, but let me help you understand championship rounds. Now, the championship rounds are considered the last 2 rounds of a championship fight, 11 and 12. Now, it is called the championship rounds, not just because you want to call it something. It determines something. It determines 2 things, okay? Who has the heart, who has the intestinal fortitude, who has the stamina, endurance, who's willing to dig deep, show the characters of a champion. That's 1. 2, it usually impacts the judges in a close fight. Let me repeat, a close fight. Let me say it again.
A close fight.
Who wins the championship rounds usually impacts the judges in a way where it determines the outcome of a fight. Case in point, we saw this with Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad. How many of you guys remember that fight? Felix Trinidad was definitely down on the scorecards. We all believe that, including Oscar De La Hoya, who decided in the championship rounds to stay away from Tito Trinidad, ultimately giving him those 2 rounds, the championship rounds. The result of the fight, which was a closer fight than we all thought, Felix Tito Trinidad, the victor. Another example, Vasily Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez Jr. Now, Lomachenko was definitely down on the scorecards, but he started to rally towards the end, towards the championship rounds. And Teofimo Lopez, he knew this. So when it came to the 12th round, Teofimo Lopez, he took that round, understanding the impact of winning the championship rounds on the judges. Teofimo Lopez went on to be victorious that fight against Lomachenko, becoming unified lightweight champion. Now look, I know many of you are going to say, well, ShowBizz, if the scores are scored already throughout the fight, what, they're going to go back and rescore the other rounds? Listen to this. Why do you think many times in a close fight, it takes a while for the judges to submit their scorecards? It's because the fight's close. And based on what happened in the championship rounds, those judges go back and deliberate. They look over their scorecards one last time because of the impact of the final rounds, the championship rounds. And the fighters know this. Look, judges are human beings. They're not cyborgs, okay? If you look at a fight, many given times during a fight, if a fighter felt like he won that round, he'll pump his fist or raise his hand. Get the support of the fans, and the judges hear those fans. The judges then become impacted by the feel of things, not just the copy box numbers or how many punches were thrown or landed, but the overall sense of things. Who is winning the fight? And look, I don't want all of you to start saying, well, they only have to win the championship rounds. No, let me repeat it again. In a close fight, a fight can and will be determined by the championship rounds. Once again, in a close fight. In a close fight.
only in a close fight.
In this fight with Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano, the fight was extremely close, but Jermell Charlo, he won the championship rounds. Going back to my statement, for me, it's either a draw or Mel won.
Because Mel won the championship rounds.
That's a thing. I do think the fight was correctly scored a draw, mathematically 6-6, but I would be able to understand if the judges leaned in the favor of Jermell Charlo because the rounds he won were the championship rounds.